Chelsea are among a litany of top-tier clubs looking to pilfer Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa in the summer. Clearlake boldly claim that they are not going anywhere and refuse to be bought out. Chelsea finally begin their search for a permanent front-of-shirt sponsor, and they are asking for some serious cash. And we talk a little bit more about Enzo Fernandez and agent Javier Pastore, who seems to be trying to do some sort of damage control after the comments and Enzo being banned for 2 games, and they are doing a lot of walking back on what they're saying. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And like I said, today that means we've got loads to get into. We're going to talk about Morgan Rogers, we're going to talk about front of shirt sponsors, Clearlake, Enzo Fernandez. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so let's just hop right into the big one. It is Morgan Rogers. Ben Jacobs has been chatting again, and PYS posted this via Ben Jacobs. Breaking, Morgan Rogers likely to leave this summer even if Aston Villa get UCL. Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, United are interested. 80 mil is the starting point figure for negotiations. CFC looking for an attacker who can play off the left or central. So, there's been a lot of reports about this, actually, over the last day or so, but this is the one that I chose to bring up. But other ones mentioned PSG as being interested in him as well. So, Morgan Rogers has been the dream for a couple of seasons now, hasn't he? Let's be completely honest. And I do think it's really interesting when you look at positionally. So I'm going to get into like some of his stats and heat map in a minute. It's really, really interesting. But are we likely to get Morgan Rogers even if we've got the money, just based on how the season's going? So obviously the other teams, being Liverpool, are going to need some sort of creative replacement for Mo Salah, although that's not exactly Morgan Rogers' kind of thing, and they do have Florian Wirtz. Arsenal, yeah, okay, especially if they win the league, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, they've got Eze and Martin Ødegaard, and let's be completely honest, the way that the team plays isn't exactly conducive to getting the best out of Morgan Rogers' abilities, because if they were, you'd probably have seen a much better season from Eberechi Eze, so that one I'm not 100% certain about would be an attractive proposition for the player, even if they win the league. Man United, yeah, okay. Do you know what I mean? I think, Man United always, Man United finished, 15th last season and still managed to go out and get the likes of Brian Mbeumo and Mateus Cunha and Sesko and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But with all of those players on the books and them playing relatively well recently, is Morgan Rogers going to just get straight into that first team? I think. And then you look at the Chelsea perspective and it's like, we're obviously going to have a bit of an exodus. And to be honest, Morgan Rogers to me makes sense if we lose Enzo Fernandez, because I actually think he plays the position that we're trying to get Enzo Fernandez to play. He is in the 10, but he's in that half space and he drifts off to the left sometimes as well. I feel like we're trying to make, especially in Liam Rosenior's team, we're trying to make Enzo Fernandez do that, and it's not necessarily getting the best out of all of his abilities and skills. But Morgan Rogers seems tailor-made for that position. So look, obviously I'm biased. I'm a Chelsea fan. I love Morgan Rogers. He invented the cold celebration. He's great friends with Cole Palmer. And if we can see a moment where Palmer assists Morgan Rogers or vice versa, and we get a double cold celebration, cinema, mate. Cinema, absolute cinema. Would love to see it. But I think it makes sense. Like, if we keep Enzo Fernandez, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, because then all of a sudden it's like we've got a lot of players vying for that position. It's interesting with Morgan Rogers as well, because the tweet states quite clearly, CFC looking for an attacker who can play off the left or central. Morgan Rogers not really a left winger by the normal, if you compare Morgan Rogers to, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying in terms of talent and ability, but profile of players like Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho and Gittins are wingers, do you know what I mean? They are wingers. But Morgan Rogers really is an attacking midfielder who likes to spend more time in the middle space. So we're going to move on to this little graphic that I pilfered from SofaScore. And instantly, the heat map, you can 100% see what I'm talking about. He is spending most of his time on the left side. That's absolutely true. And I love the fact, this is just his league stats, by the way, in the Premier League. No other competitions. But you can see the fact that he gets stuck into the defensive work as well, which is a good thing. Now, he is spending a lot of time on that right-hand side. And last season in particular, although a lot less this season, Morgan Rogers was starting on the left wing and almost every single game drifting into the right-sided half space in front of the goal. Obviously, this year, he seems to be favouring that left side a lot more. I do think that would be interesting if you've got a Morgan Rogers on the left, a Cole Palmer in the middle, and an Esteval on the right, because obviously Esteval can switch up with Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer can switch up with Morgan. It could be potentially a very fluid attack. 31 games this season, so obviously we all know Morgan Rogers is being played a lot, and he's really, really trusted by the manager. He's been in the team of the week 3 times, which is quite impressive. 8 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League is good. Do you know what I mean? It is good. That is in and around what Enzo Fernandez has got this season as well, isn't it? Let's be completely honest. And I think he's got 2 more assists than Enzo Fernandez and the same amount of goals in the league. So the goal return is the same. And he's getting a few more assists. And I just think he suits that position better than Enzo Fernandez does, if I'm completely honest. And an attacking 3 of Morgan Rogers, Esteval Willian and Cole Palmer sounds tantalising, doesn't it? And it's not a very typical one because, like I say, what you've kind of got there is 2 attacking midfielders and a bit more of a winger in Esteval, but one who can, be very creative and swap positions and drift in and stuff. But obviously, Esteval is quite comfortable playing out on the left. Cole Palmer can make things happen from over there. And we know that Morgan Rogers, based on last season's heat map, and you can even see it in this one, even though it's not the most, not what he's doing the most this season, he can also drift into that right half space. So it would create an absolute fluidity, and they're all comfortable in all of those positions, where I feel like we don't really get the same from Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho at the moment. So, guys, Morgan Rogers, is it a pipe dream? 80 million as the starting point. I mean, same as last season, it's easy to see Morgan Rogers being a £100 million player. He's going to go to the World Cup. Does he, his antics in the World Cup obviously, raise that up. I would love to see us going for Morgan Rogers, and we have been talking about it for a little while. There was a lot of conversations vis-a-vis Nicholas Jackson and Morgan Rogers, and maybe that could still be on the cards as well. It could be a case of we sell them Jackson for 50 million, they sell us Morgan Rogers for 100, or something like that, which ultimately makes it a lot more affordable for both clubs. So, yeah, let me know what you think about that, guys. Morgan Rogers, do you think the Jackson swap could be a thing? Because obviously he's played for Unai Emery before and they are in need of a new striker. And either way, would you like to see him in the team? So we're going to move on a bit more from Ben Jacobs, and he had something to say on the London is Blue podcast, which is a great podcast. Check it out if you haven't already. And it is pertaining to Clearlake not wanting to sell. So obviously there is the protest on the 18th of April. I will not be able to attend because I will be playing a gig, because I do that sometimes. I play gigs with rock bands. But I won't be available for that one. But obviously this protest is joint with the Strasbourg fans, which is really interesting, and the whole idea seems to be Bedadig Bali in particular and Clearlake out, BlueCo out in general. There's obviously a lot of content gone around at the moment from certain content creators pertaining to breaking down the structure of the company with all the holdings and stuff. But at the top, you've got like 60+%, 62% or something like that owned by Clearlake, and about 32% owned by Todd Bowley's consortium. So, Ben Jacobs on the London is Blue pod. Clearlake will not sell Chelsea. Bowley has already been down that route and explored it. Clearlake's position is status quo, or they would potentially be prepared to buy out Todd Bowley and increase their stake even more. Summer 2027 is a time frame when we could see some discussions on what to do next from Todd's side. There will be a new chairman, and he knows Clearlake's not for sale position and that they have no intention to leave. Todd wants progression on the stadium. So there is loads to unpack with this, man. There's loads to unpack. To be honest, was always under the impression that Clearlake weren't going to sell. I think it's easy for us from a fan side to look at we just want sporting success and stuff. But the sheer amount of investment, even if they can sell, this is obviously a big thing that's been talked about recently. There was this idea of you're not allowed to sell shares for 10 years. That's kind of the PR that came out at the start when they bought the club, but obviously, some content creators have really dived deep quite into that recently. And what has come out from that is they do have the ability to sell the club, supposedly. But that doesn't mean that they're going to. And then there's not necessarily, buyers on the table. There was some wild story on TalkSport the other day about Katie Price's husband being interested or whatever. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't seem necessarily super, super likely that Clearlake are going to sell. Now, the other couple of interesting things in this, we do know there was a conversation last season, I think it was last season when things were starting to go bad, where Todd Bowley was making noise about potentially trying to buy out Clearlake's side. What we're seeing from this is that's absolutely not going to happen. So essentially, because Clearlake are the controlling power, because they have the most percentage, they can't really be forced to sell if they don't want to. And what this is saying is basically, they will always, maintaining the status quo basically means keep it as it is at the moment, 62% Clearlake, 38% Bowley's consortium. Or the other option is they buy out Bowley completely. Now, I think it is probably worth keeping Todd Bowley about because, to be completely honest, he's the only one who seems to have, although he made some mistakes at the start, don't get me wrong, I think that another, he isn't the one that's pushing all the youth model and the finance first. He seems to favour sporting success and wanting to do things to make that the priority. So I think I would be sad to see Todd Bowley get bought out. But at the end of the day, if he doesn't like the way that things are going, then, billionaire's going to be billionaires, isn't they? He'll sell up and just move on and buy something else. Maybe another Premier League club, who knows? But yeah, so the other thing we've got there is obviously the 2027 timeframe thing. So what they set at the beginning is Todd Boehly would be the chairman for the first 5 years. So as of right now, Todd Boehly is the chairman, but we're not really hearing or seeing a lot for him. And in 2027, that can change over. So that might be when we see Todd Boehly make his decision on whether he wants to maintain that status quo and keep his part in Chelsea, or whether they actually just buy him out completely and own the entirety of the thing from the Clearlake and Eghbali side, which is not ideal. Like I say, for me personally, this isn't based on what I want to happen in terms of, the best case scenario would be have a billionaire owner who loves football and wants to find clean ways to get money into the club without having to do any Roman style things that were a little bit naughty and prioritize success. That's what every single fan wants, and I'm 100% on that. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think consortiums and things like BlueCo are unfortunately the future of football. I think it's something we're all going to have to get used to. And I just think that they're probably not going to sell. Like, how do you pressure a billionaire to sell the club? Do you know what I mean? It's going to be so difficult. Now, we'll see what the protests do. I think that it is possible to get them to change. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, sporting success needs to be the focus, doesn't it? And if the protests can do anything for me, at the very least, what I want it to do is to get BlueCo to change their idea and their model and put sporting success before their model. I think the model isn't a bad idea financially for the long term, but I think going in on it as we are at the moment, clearly the data is telling us that it's not working. I've said that a few times recently. So the other last thing on there is Todd wants progression on the stadium, and that is something that's interesting, is not being mentioned from the Eghbali and Clearlake side as well. It's really difficult with the Stamford Bridge thing, man, because, it is a small stadium, but it is difficult. I was having a chat with a guy who knows a lot more about this kind of stuff than I do yesterday, and he said that, I remember a little while ago there was some talks about maybe building up, do you know what I mean, because it's difficult to expand, and he said even that would be difficult just because of the position as a hospital and stuff, and you'd have to stop a lot of, what's going on around it in and around the area in order to construct on it. So, there was sort of talks about St. El's Court, and I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with that, because ultimately the Chelsea Pitch Owners Association have a big say in that as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on with the stadium. I think a new stadium would be great, but at the same time, it is what it is, and if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. But what I want to see before that, to be completely honest, is just more emphasis being put on the sporting success side, right? And for me, if the protest can do anything, it's absolutely that. But here is another thing to say: Clearlake are not looking to sell, and I'm not really surprised. They've divvied it up into a million different parts. They've bought Strasbourg. They're talking about buying other football clubs as well. They're building a football empire, and I'd be surprised to see them fold after a few seasons, so quickly. So unfortunately, I do think we're stuck with them. And like I say, for me, the protests, if you can do anything about it, get them to change their mantra and put sporting success first, I think that's the best we can hope for. So moving on, front of shirt sponsor, PYS posted this via Lou Class. Chelsea search for a long-term front of shirt sponsor is now underway. The club want 55 mil per year, even if they don't qualify for the UCL. They will target a deal of 65 million per year if they qualify. So it's good news and bad news, really, because we need a front of shirt sponsor. These part-time front of shirt sponsors, Infinite Athlete, Damac and IFS, whatever it is, the AR company at the moment, it's like, coming in at the last of the season just to get a little bit of money in. It's not good enough. It's not going to be enough money. And in order to help us with that sporting success, having that kind of money extra on the books from a sponsorship, we've gotten to the point where they have to now as well. There's very few assets left to be able to sell. We've sold the hotels. We've sold the women's team to other holding companies within BlueCo, do you know what I mean? And we are running out of assets quickly in order to get that extra money and in order to be compliant with the financial regulations. So I do think what we need to do now is get a front of shirt sponsor. So 55 mil per year if we're not in the Champions League. That's a lot. Now, the reason that may be possible is because Chelsea are an international brand. With or without Champions League, Chelsea are watched and loved all over the world. There are merch sales all over the world. It's just one of those things, do you know what I mean, where it's like, it would be potentially interesting to investors, but at the same time, they are going to want to see some idea of sporting success in the future. I would have thought it'd be really difficult to go in and try and get a front of shirt sponsor if you are going like, yeah, we're just going to carry on buying 20, 21-year-olds and we don't really care about sporting success. I'm sure anyone, especially without Champions League, anyone that is going to want to invest that kind of money in Chelsea to be on the front of their shirt is going to want some sort of assurances that sporting success is the priority. 65 mil per year with Champions League football as well. So for comparison's sake, I have brought up a little table that we will look at just here. This is the current top front of shirt sponsors in terms of value in the Premier League right now. Man City with Etihad Airways 60 mil per year. So if we get Champions League, we're already asking for more money than Man City. So basically, before we even talk to any sponsors, if we get Champions League, we are asking for the best paid front of shirt sponsor in the league. That's a little bit worrying, isn't it? The next up is Man United with Snapdragon, that is also 60 mil. Now, that is where there is some hope, right? Because Man United are not exactly... they're having a good season now, don't get me wrong, and they've done amazing to turn it around since Michael Carrick took over, but they have been struggling for a long time now. They've been in the Champions League intermittently, but they're not winning anything. Do you know what I mean? I think they've won a couple of FA Cups, but ultimately they haven't really been looking like challenging for or winning anything for quite a long time. So to say that Snapdragon came down and laid down 60 mil on a Man United that have not exactly been in the upper echelons of competing for the greatest sporting honours for the last few years, and that shows you that this kind of thing can be done. Now, 65 mil, if we get in the Champions League, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Like I say, Manchester United have been in and out of the Champions League for a few years and they've got 60 mil, but they've got that history and, do you know what I mean? It's Man United and they're a massive, massive, massive international brand, easily the biggest club in the UK. I think that's, it's not really a negotiation, is it? It's not even a debate at that point. So after that, you've got Liverpool with Standard Chartered and they have been with them for a long time now. That's 50 mil a season. Obviously, in the last sort of 10 years or whatever, since the beginning of the Klopp era, Liverpool have been, really successful. They've won Champions League. They've won the Premier League 2 times. So, that is a reasonable investment, I guess, but Standard Chartered have been with them for a long time. Arsenal, obviously the Emirates have been with them forever, 50 mil as well, and they are not always winning stuff, although they are challenging a lot. And then you've got Tottenham Hotspur, who may well get relegated, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with that, because I'm not sure that their front of shirt sponsor is going to pay them 40 to 50 mil a season if they are in the Championship. So I just thought this was interesting because if these numbers are true, we're looking for 55 to 65 mil, depending on whether we are in the Champions League. If we're not in the Champions League, we're asking for more than, like Liverpool and Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? If we're not in the Champions League. And if we are in the Champions League, we're asking for the most in the league. Is Chelsea the most valuable asset in the Premier League? I don't know. It would be some real wizardry to get that kind of front of shirt sponsor. And to be honest, I have a feeling that might be the reason we don't already have one. But either way, as a Vane fan, my main thing is I just want it to look nice. Just want it to look nice. I like the Infinite Athlete one. The Damac one, not a huge fan of. And the current one's horrible. Like, I hate the current shirt sponsor, man. I think it looks absolutely dross. Absolutely awful. So whatever they get for me, as long as it looks good, I don't really care. But obviously you would want it to be that kind of north of 50 mil based on the likes of, Tottenham, who are, absolutely awful at the moment. And they are still getting 40 to 50 mil with a sponsor that they've had for a long time. So guys, tell me what you think about that in the comments. Do you think we're asking too much? I kind of think we're asking too much, but let me know what you think about it. And to finish up today's video, we are going to talk a little bit more about Enzo Fernandez, but I have a feeling that the stories are going to start quietening down for the rest of the season, at least until the summer. So, Transfer News Live, per Sky Sports, Enzo Fernandez and his agent, Javier Pastore, have apologised to Chelsea for comments the midfielder made while on international duty in Argentina about a potential move to Real Madrid. So... I've got 3 tweets to go through on this one, man, and it's so funny. It's like, he obviously came out angling for a move to Real Madrid, like he 100% did. Do you know what I mean? There's no, I heard a few people being like, oh, he was just asked an innocent question. I'm like, no, he wasn't. Come on, let's all be adults here. It's football. You're not allowed to say, I'm sure you are contractually obligated to not be able to come out and say, I want to move to Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that you just can't do that. So obviously journalists are going to do what they can to try and find ways to get these answers out of you without directly asking, because I think there's a whole heap of trouble for anyone that if he just come out and said, yeah, I want to go to Real Madrid, like, he's in trouble. You know what I mean? He's going to get fines and, it's going to be, it'll be in the terms of his contract that they're all players' contracts that they're not allowed to do that. Do you know what I mean? Tapping up is technically illegal, for instance. Do you know what I mean? I think it pertains to all of that, doesn't it? So they've apologised. Blue Dodgers posted this via Onde Mundial. I'm not sure if that's French or Spanish, but Enzo Fernandez's agent, Javier Pastore, on Enzo's happiness at Madrid. He's very happy at Chelsea. He's captain and he's already in his 3rd year here. Honestly, these are the best years of his career and he feels good there. I live in Madrid, so everyone says he's going to Madrid, but it's more of press hype than anything else. I'm like, mate, come on. I live in Madrid, so that's the reason. Oh, come on, mate, come on, that's outrageous. I don't think any agent has ever said that before, that when a player's been linked to another club, and especially in this kind of situation, the agents come out and say, oh, no, actually, there's just a misunderstanding. It's just hype. It's just because I actually happen to live in Madrid and he wants to be close. Oh, mate, come on, man, give it up. It's funny. So yeah, but what this shows you is that they are trying to walk it back. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, he's very happy here and he's in his third year. He's a captain and this, that and the other. What it looks like is happening at the end of the day is he wants to make sure he can get back into the team for the rest of the season. And I do still expect there to be conversations around Enzo Fernandez leaving in the summer. But I think there's probably been quite a strong side from BlueCo saying, we're not selling you if we don't want to. And if we don't get the money, you can push all you want. You've got 4 years left on your deal. Do you know what I mean? It's like if Enzo Fernandez had 2 years left on his deal, the conversation would be a lot more in his hands, because that's the only time you're going to get money for him. Do you know what I mean? So if you sell him with 2 years left on his deal, you can get some money back for him. If you try to sell him with 1 year left on his deal, you get nothing. And if he wants, he can just wait that year out. And we've seen that many times before. Do you know what I mean? And we know Real Madrid like to come in for some of their superstars on a free, don't we? With the likes of Kylian Mbappe and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So like I say, if he had 2 years left on his deal, he'd have more cards in his hand to play. But because he's on one of these long deals, I just have a feeling that that's not going to be the case. So one more thing from Enzo Fernandez's agent via Top Mercato, posted by Chelsea Dodgers. Enzo Fernandez's agent Javier Pastore says Enzo apologised to everyone at Chelsea for his comments. What happened. We explained to the player that even though he hasn't done anything wrong, he shouldn't have said that. He's only 25, he's still young, still has things to learn. We explained to the club that he said it without malice, that he made a mistake. He naturally apologised to the club, his teammates, the coach, the sporting directors, and everyone. We're all on the same page. We simply had to clear up the misunderstanding. So my question here, because this is all apparently coming from Javier Pastore as well, right? So was it just overhyped because and you live in Madrid and Enzo was talking about Madrid, or is it actually he needed to apologise because what he's saying is obviously flirting with Real Madrid? Like, it's just not even consistent with itself at this point. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm not surprised to see it go this way. I think this point in the season was a really weird time to do something like that. Like, I get you're out on the international break and stuff, so, you got a little bit more freedom and, you're talking to different presses from different countries. But at the same time, there's still the rest of the season to play. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if he'd have got dropped for the rest of the season for these comments, what you know what I mean? It's like, is Real Madrid going to want to come in for you anyway? Do you know what I mean? And obviously, there's, it's just all a mess. It's just all a mess. But even though it's been a bit of a mess, this is positive. Obviously, we know that he's going to miss the Man City game, and maybe this is one last effort from Enzo and Javier Pastore to get him into that game, because he obviously wants to play high-profile games. Either way, I actually kind of hope we don't now. I really, really hope they don't break and they don't let him back in the team. I think they need to show strength in this regard, because what Enzo did, let's be completely honest, it was an accident. No, it wasn't an accident. Like I say, man, we all know the game, don't we? He was angling for a move away. And we know that because he did something similar when he came to Chelsea in the first place with Benfica. So it's not exactly like there's no precedent for this at all. But guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Where do you stand on Enzo Fernandez? Just tell me that. Like, do you think that we absolutely have to keep him in the team? Like, for me, I'm indifferent. I'd be happy to keep him and I wouldn't mind to see him go either, because I do think that from a system perspective and from a squad building perspective, we could spend the money we get from Enzo Fernandez and the wages that we free up on other points in the team. I do think his greatest two assets are his goal scoring ability and the fact that he is developed into a reasonably good captain. But I'm not sure that's enough for me personally. So would you sell Enzo Fernandez or would you keep him? Let me know in the comments. Nice one, guys. That is it. I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thank you very, very much for sticking around until the end if you did. And I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.